don't sell your Bitcoin. Don't use your Bitcoin to buy goods and services. And this idea of, and I've heard Saylor say this as well, I'm just connecting the dots, this idea that Bitcoin is pristine collateral, right? You're going to be able to borrow against that. So could you elaborate a little bit on that? Because Bitcoiners like myself, like we've just been here a while, we're stacking, we don't want to sell our stack. And you're like, Nico, you shouldn't have to do that. It's the best collateral the world has ever seen. So are we going to see more services? Are banks supposed to be offering this?
Yeah, we're not there yet. Okay. So it's really hard now. We're all in that situation. All of us that have been stacking for a long time. I'm personally in that situation, right? Like I would love to buy a new home right now, but I can't because I know that if I wait a year or two, that home is going to be free. Right? So, and there's no way to borrow against it right now kind of thing. So when I said, don't sell your Bitcoin, it's going to be very tough to get back on that podcast, which went more viral than I had anticipated. It was really, that stemmed from, I had a lot's a relative thing, but for me, I had a lot of Bitcoin in 2013 that I bought at roughly, $600 per Bitcoin. And then in 2014, I sold that Bitcoin, and it took, how many, was that 2016 till now? So it took about 8 or 9 years for me to get back to where I was. So it's once you sell your Bitcoin, it's very hard to get it back.
Yeah, and
very hard.
It's interesting that you tell me this because I was with, oh my God, I can't pronounce his name. I'm going to butcher it, but I was with, one Bitcoin OG. He was like the first programmer that Satoshi ever spoke to. Okay. And he did a presentation in Lugano in Switzerland called My Pizza Story. And essentially, the long story short, he ended up selling like 10,000 Bitcoin to buy a 1-bedroom apartment. Yeah. I feel like everyone has that story, It's
an expensive apartment.
And then you burn your finger and you're like, okay, this is probably not a good idea. So Eric, another thing
it's a $1 billion apartment.
Right? So one of the things that happened in 2024 that was also pretty exciting was the introduction of the ETFs, right? Yep. And then not only the introduction, with the SEC dragging their feet, and the launch was pretty butchered, like someone hacked the account or something like that.
The SEC's Twitter account was hacked, and there was a false announcement of approval.
And the volatility swung 10%.
And yet it was still the most successul ETF launch in history.
That's what I want to talk about, right? The idea that the Bitcoin ETFs was the most successful ETFs in history. Larry Fink, right? Very influential, powerful person. He's essentially saying Satoshi's gospel on CNBC. I would have never have imagined that, 5 years ago. I think his quote from 2017, 2018 was, Bitcoin is an index of money laundering. And of course, number go up technology does what number go up technology does. Right. And he changed his mind. And now we have BlackRock in the game. Yeah. Right? So is that just going to continue to accelerate? Do you see the ETFs?
I think the big thing about the ETF approval, in my opinion, was not just that we had a domesticated form of Bitcoin that nation states don't have to be afraid. People are going to, they don't have to be concerned about capital controls. It's an exchange traded item, right? So you don't have to worry about people, like Bitcoin, moving it around. It's more that we cross this regulatory chasm into legitimacy. So there was a lot of discussion, which, people who are, newer to Bitcoin, going forward in the next handful of years won't ever know. There was discussion as to whether or not this was going to get outlawed or be legal or not. And we crossed that chasm with the ETF. And we crossed it in a way that we're never going back, because it's now in the hands of retirement funds, pension funds, endowment funds, municipalities. It's there. It's never going to be outlawed, right? And that, to me, was the big significance of the ETF approval. So that's a big deal. Yes, it was great for capital inflows, and that's why they're the most successful ETFs. I think that 90% of the people, companies, countries that are going to buy Bitcoin haven't bought their first sat yet. So I think there's plenty more adoption to come.
Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledn has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally have not only an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledn is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to HODL while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you. Check out Ledn.io today.